Welcome, everybody, back to another Transfer Portal podcast brought to you by NoContextCFB. My name is Brian, and joined with me are Josh and Andrew Wilson. How are you boys doing today?
Doing good, doing great.
Yeah, man, just exciting to talk college football. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah, definitely. Happy 420. I know it's an exciting day for a lot of people out there, so I hope you guys are enjoying your day. So let's get right into it. So obviously, right now we're still in that slow period. I know spring football is kind of dwindling down. Most of the big programs have had their spring days and spring games by now. So we're kind of getting into the dark ages of the off season where nothing really goes on. So we're kind of just gonna not really get into anything specifically, any news or anything like that. We're just kind of more talk about some fun topics today. So to begin, we've always, right now it's prime draft season, right? We talk about the draft and all that. We evaluate. And Andrew, you've done a great job with mock drafts and evaluations and stuff like that. So we always see these athletes that are freaks in college, and we think they're going to just come out and take the league by storm and be Hall of Famers one day, and just doesn't happen. They just don't end up being that way for some reason or another. And a lot of big names kind of come up. So I just want to start off talking about some of those guys. So you guys think who you thought were going to pan out but didn't. Andrew, let's start with you. Who do you think?
All right, well, I kind of have two. One of them is biased. One of them is just straight up college football fan. I'm surprised Tyler Johnson hasn't really blown up. Now, he didn't really go to the best situation for a young receiver, seeing that he had to compete with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. He had Brashard Perriman in the building, Antonio Brown for a little bit. But I really thought he was going to end up solidifying like a WR3 role with that team. He was a smooth route runner, great run blocker, which that's one thing he has really shown for the Buccaneers is his stellar run blocking. But it would have been nice to see him get a little bit larger role. Hopefully he can get it in the near future. But my non-biased pick is Amir Abdullah. He was something different at Nebraska. And I don't care for Nebraska as a Minnesota fan, but you just had to watch in awe of how good Abdullah was for the Cornhuskers. He had that legendary play. And as I say that, I forget who it was against, but he had the 78-yard touchdown near the end of the game. It was insane. He had 2 seasons to end his career of over 1,600 yards. I believe he was a second-round pick by the Lions, and he really just didn't pan out to be a great running back. He had 2 years of over 500 yards rushing, and he's just been kind of jumping around the league ever since. He's had stints in Detroit, Minnesota, Carolina. I believe he might have gotten picked up by Las Vegas this past offseason. Yeah, it says Amir Abdullah signs with the Raiders 3/18. So that's going to be another stop in his career. He has been a decent returner, so hopefully he can find a role with the team as a returner. But, man, I really thought he was going to be a really good running back in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. No, he was, I remember watching Amir Abdullah play in college, and it was just insane. Like it's so crazy how some of these guys just don't work out. For me, I have my main person who I really want to talk about, but it was a little bit obvious, and that's Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette, I mean, the writing was on the wall, man. He was a beast at LSU, number 1 recruited running back coming out of high school, and you just knew that he was going to come into the league and destroy I thought he kind of looked like almost the way Todd Gurley started his career. MVP, he was, had a chance to win MVP. And I almost wanted Todd Gurley, but I feel like the beginning of his career was too good for it to really be didn't work out. It just ran into some injuries and just wasn't the same after that. But yeah, obviously he didn't really do as what he was expected of him in Jacksonville. And he did find a nice role with the Buccaneers, kind of, splitting carries and not really being, the main heavy load guy. And they kind of did a good job of featuring him. And obviously they won a Super Bowl with him. But I feel for what he did in college, he should be one of, or if not the best running back in the NFL right now. And my second one, it's Kevin White. Coming out of West Virginia is a top 10 pick, number 7 overall. And for him, the reason why I don't want to really bash on him too much is he has had a lot of injuries to start his career. He hasn't really seen the field much. He only has 26 catches for 323 yards. And it's this 5 years now, 4 or 5 years now since he got drafted. So it's just unfortunate. I don't really want to say he's a bust or he just didn't work out. There's a lot of injuries got in his way and has never really found his footing. So those are going to be the two guys that I kind of looked into. Josh, what about you?
All right, first, Andrew, I remember that Abdullah play. It was against McNeese State, though. So that's
why I couldn't remember. I knew it was some super small school.
Yeah, I remember I was cheering for McNeese State, and then Abdullah caught the little dump off, and then he just kind of weaved around. And I was like, that's fun. Anyways, I'm gonna start off with I'm gonna start off with an Arkansas player, Greg Childs, 08 to 11. He was 6'3", 220. He was big, he was fast, he was strong, he was awesome. Like, he didn't put up like crazy numbers, but that Arkansas team like had a bunch. I think that like Jarius Wright, Joe Adams, a bunch of those dudes. I think that was Ryan Mallett or something. They like threw the ball all over the place. He was really fun. Unfortunately, he had patella tendon injuries, and it really knocked him out. And like I think in like the offseason of his rookie year, like both of his patella tendons got messed up, so he was basically released. He was only a 4th round pick. But yeah, he was a dude. I'd watch him against SEC defense. And like, man, this guy is going to be awesome in the league forever because he was destroying dudes. And then another guy, this is another Nebraska player, not as athletic as Amir Abdullah. Oh, you never know. I didn't really see this player run or throw or anything. But this is Alex Henry. This is when Nebraska was still in the Big 12. Alex Henry was a kicker and a punter, a decent punter. But the thing is, as a kicker, he finished at 89.5% of field goal attempts. That's an NCAA record. And I remember him constantly hitting 50-yard bombs against dudes because Nebraska's offense would just kind of stall out and die. And so we have to go out there and kick these long kicks, but he'd make them. He was really good. And then he got drafted in the 4th round. I'm like, all right, this guy, 20-year career, he's going to be the next Adam Vinatieri, which, again, crazy of me to be so excited on a kicker. But this dude was that good in college. Just go watch him. And then he only lasted 3 seasons with the Eagles, and he got beat up by Cody Parkey, which is interesting knowing how Cody Parkey's NFL career has gone. And then Alex Henry went 2 more games with the Lions, and that was it. So that was kind of interesting. I have really physical guy, and then I have a kicker and a punter. But hey, you never know who you'll get excited about when it comes to the draft time.
I mean, yeah, no, it's obviously. I mean, that's kind of under the radar. I didn't even think about that, but you can definitely put a bunch of kickers on there that should have worked out that didn't. We can talk about Roberto Aguayo from the Bucks. He a 2nd round pick, wasn't he? The first,
yeah,
like 2nd round pick, and he just completely just not good at all. So yeah, no, that's very interesting. You kind of made me think about that a little bit. So cool. Well, yeah. Well, hopefully that doesn't happen to anybody getting drafted this year. I hope not. At least we want everybody to have success.
Yeah, of course we do. And I hope this player is amazing. How bad would it look if Matt Araiza was like?
Oh man,
Josh, I know you would be heartbroken.
I am, but I'm also kind of terrified because the thing is, he's just a guy with a big he's a guy with a big leg, which is awesome. But I don't know. Sometimes on his when he has to pin teams, I don't know, because it's like a player with who can only drive in golf. A player, is that what they call them in golf? Whatever.
Golfer.
Yeah, a golfer. Yeah, duh. A golfer who only has a driver and he can hit it 9 million miles. But then when it comes to putting, they're like, it's all over the place. So, but Araiza, cheering for you. I think you'll be good, hopefully. So.
Yeah, and it's punting too, so you can't really mess up punting that much. So if he was kicking field goals, that'd be different. But so
let me real quick. I just got to jump in here because I got reminded. So Andrew talked about Tyler Johnson. I went to college with a guy who played Tyler Johnson in the Minneapolis or in the Minnesota State. What's this? I'm looking at it. The 1A championship for Minnesota basketball. Yeah. So this is gonna be awful, but this is Tyler Johnson just going up to dunk on some guy. My friend's in the back there somewhere. Yeah, that was the thing. Like my friend was saying, it was really close, And then the coach went in at halftime, was like, "Hey, if you guys pull off this upset, this would be the greatest thing in like forever." Because like there was some, my friend went to some small like high school. Like, it's the typical like small school, go up against the giants, athletes and everything, except that the giant athletic team with Tyler Johnson, they went full court press against like a 5 point guard in the second half, and they ran away with it. But yeah, that's just a fun like what's it, like the 6 degrees of separation thing.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. We forget how some of these guys are so athletic and they play all these different sports. It's insane. So moving on. So there's always, well, let's talk about controversy, because there's always a lot of controversy in college football. And one of the main things that is controversial in college football is officiating and rules. So obviously, so let's pretend that we are the commissioners of the NCAA and we are going to add a rule that will make the game better. So what I decided to do on this one was I decided to get like a realistic rule that could work out better. And then one more like of a fun, that'd be really interesting, but it'll never happen type rule. So my first one was, I think we should, I wouldn't want to, instead of adding a rule, I want to take away a rule or change it. I think that pass interference should be spot fouls no matter what. I'm tired of seeing they throw fades down the sideline, 40 yards down the field, and the DB knows he's beat. And what does he do? He tackles the receiver early to avoid him catching the ball, knowing he's going to get a PI call, and then it's only 15 yards. That is just atrocious. That's horrible for the game, in my opinion. I think that also leads to injury. That could also injure players too by getting, tackled by the ankles or getting just completely blown up, but while trying to catch a football when they know they're going to get flagged for it. So that needs to go away. It should be a spot foul, just like it is in the NFL. If it's 60 yards down the field, they need to call it 60 yards down the field. 15-yard penalties for pass interference is just horrible. It's atrocious. It shouldn't happen. Make it a spot foul. And I still don't know why I still don't know how that's a thing. And it's just bad for the game to see that, getting cop-outs by tackling a receiver early. My second one, which I think would be fun, is we have a lot of issues there's been a lot of talk about overtime, the way overtime is played both in college and in the NFL. My solution is this. You have 3 overtime possessions. After the 3rd overtime possession, you go into a kickoff by the kickers, and you start them at, let's say, the 40-yard line, and they kick field goals back and forth like they do in soccer. They kick field goals back and forth, and after 3 tries, if all 3 kicks are good by each team, you move them back to the 40 or to the 50, and you kind of just do that until you get somebody to miss, and then that's how you determine the winner. That would be so much fun. Like, just imagine that. That would be so much fun watching that and having a national. Let's go back to the national championship in 2018 versus Georgia and Alabama, and having them not in Jake Fromm's hands, not in Chua's hands, but in the hands of Rodrigo Blankenship and whoever the kicker for Alabama was. I know he wasn't very good, but that would be amazing. That would have been so much fun to see. In my opinion, it would have pissed a lot of people off because of, I think that nobody would ever be on board with that. And I don't think the NCAA would ever be on board with that. But man, that would be so much fun to watch, in my opinion. Josh, what about you? What do you think?
Wait, let me ask you real quick. Would it be would they just go out there with not the kicking tee, but whatever, like that thing they use on the sideline for practice, or would it be like legit field goals with like people trying to block the kick?
Oh, that's a great question. I think for the competitiveness of the game, you should have legit field goal tries. So you have both teams trying to block it, and stuff like that. I think that would just add to it. In soccer, you have the goalie still there. You know what I mean? So I think you should have the field goal team on both sides trying to block and trying to defend. And then you have 3 kicks. So you do 3 kicks in a row. And then if you make all 3, and then the next team goes, and then if they make all 3, then you move them back. And then 3 and 3, 3 and 3. Obviously, if you make 2 of 3, another team makes 3 of 3, then they win, right? So that's usually how it works. So, but yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I actually was thinking about that, but I went a different route. I couldn't really think of too many crazy ones like that one. I'll start with my serious one. I have so many, but one that's really, I understand, like, we love watching college football and we like it when the game's going, but like sometimes the games go way too long. And that's also just a player safety thing. So just don't stop the clock after first downs. Just let it run like the NFL. Just keep it going. And then if you want, put in the 2-minute warning, that's fine. It just keeps the game going. And sometimes it's really, it just takes so long because sometimes I'll be watching a drive that takes like 10 plays, but then like, how is it only 2 minutes? Oh, that's right, because they're not even running no huddle. It's just that, oh, the clock kept stopping. And like, you look at like NFL games, like they are slotted. I mean, college football games, of course, are slotted at the different times, but NFL games are really slotted and they all end at a pretty consistent basis. Whereas in college football, it's like 4 hours later, we're still in the third quarter. Kind of an exaggeration, but that's kind of how it is. And I love college football as much as you guys, as much as the rest of them. But even for me, watching a midnight game on my end, and then it's like, what, 3 a.m. on the East Coast, it's like, guys, we've been here. This is too long. And again, just another thing, again, the player safety, because that's just, it's players out there for way, way too long. And that sucks for the players. My fun one, this is kind of fun, but this is just also, it just kind of bugs me because if we let professional athletes celebrate, why can't we let college, well, they're young men, but still kids, let them celebrate. Like I remember some guy scored and he just did like a simple, it wasn't even like a crazy like Gronk spike. It was just he raised it up to like shoulder level and then spiked the ball. And then he got flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. It's like, that's not even that bad. He wasn't spiking it towards anybody. He just like, he ran to the end zone and he's like looking up at his fans. He's like, yeah, let's go. I'm like, no. And then they threw the flag. And then the worst part is like, it gets affected on the kickoff. Like there was an Ole Miss game versus LSU. Ole Miss scored a touchdown. The guy was diving to the end zone and he just dove into the end zone. And there was like a LSU player coming to him. And then they flagged him for unsportsmanlike conduct on that. And then the kickoff was short. They had to back up the kickoff. LSU got a shorter field and LSU ended up winning. So it just let them celebrate. Maybe not to the extent of what the U did back in the day, where like the guy runs up the tunnel and comes back down, pretending to shoot up people. That's a little too much. But it's college kids. Let them have fun. I don't know. Yeah. Let someone ride the Colorado Buffalo mascot around the field. That might be dangerous, but something like that. That would be awesome.
Yeah, no, that's funny. That made me think about when was it, Brad Wing from LSU, when he like did the fake punt and he went down the sideline and scored a touchdown, but he like kind of like shrugged at the defender and they flagged him for that and they called the touchdown back. Like that is horrible. That's atrocious, man. Come on.
Yeah, that was maybe like, okay, maybe you can call stuff like, because maybe that's considered taunting, but like don't take the touchdown away. And he's a punter. How many? I mean, I know like he played like Aussie rules football or rugby or whatever, so he's scored, but that was awesome. He's a punter. Let people have fun.
Yeah, definitely. Andrew, what do you think?
I just want to add one quick thing to Josh's. What was the game this year that everyone got mad at for the players like not even celebrating during his run to the end zone? It was like Oklahoma State, Iowa State or something. There was some game in the Big 12 where someone was celebrating like at the 5-yard line.
No. He wasn't even celebrating that.
Yeah, so, he was just like holding the ball
at that
out,
point,
I think.
Yeah, at that point, it was undefeated Oklahoma State. They're at number 7 versus Iowa State. And it's third quarter. I think the guy's name is Hutchinson or something. Like wide receiver catches a slant. He's running. He doesn't even celebrate. I think he just like kind of like points a little bit, not even like at a play. He just kind of like points to the crowd or whatever as he's going into score. It's at Iowa State. They called it back. And then thankfully they were able to score later on that drive. And then Iowa State ended up pulling off the upset barely. But it's like, let's say they call that back for nothing. Iowa State doesn't win. Oklahoma State wins. They go on blah, 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 blah. You know what happens? Iowa State or Oklahoma State, excuse me, would have only had one loss in the Big 12 title game. And would that have been enough to put them in over other playoff teams? I don't know. There's a whole thing that can happen if we don't let players celebrate.
Or imagine that Oklahoma State's like, okay, we won the Big 12 championship. Obviously, they want to beat Oklahoma. Well, let's say they go 95% instead of 100%. Lincoln Riley might still be a Sooner. So nah. He still would have left. He would have gone. He would have seen the LA beach, the LA weather, and said, Norman's fun and all, but how much? I love you. I love you, Sooner fans. Not really, but kind of. Feel bad for you. don't love you, but it's an unfortunate situation. But you know what? It's college football. Stuff happens. All right. First rule I got. Oh my gosh, targeting. Get it the heck out. Or what my solution is, you have two targeting. Treat it like a flagrant foul in the NBA. You've got targeting 1 and targeting 2. Targeting 1 is, it's not egregious. I don't think there's any intent. Yes, it's a bad hit. Yes, it needs to be penalized. He does not need to be ejected by any means. Targeting 2 is when, okay, yeah, he's trying to decapitate him. That's when it's like, okay, yeah, that's too far. There's intent. That's an ejection. That fixes the rule altogether. All you need to do is figure out, okay, what is intent, which is very easy to figure out. I'd say 90% of targeting calls, it would be a targeting 1. There's not really much intent. It's just an unfortunate situation. It's football. Stuff happens. Then there's the 10% where it's like, okay, yeah, please leave. Please leave. Second rule we've got, I also kind of went down the kicking route that Brian did. So we've got it's a two-parter kind of. First off, let's move PATs back to the 15 like the NFL. I mean,
Yeah.
College kickers are so bad that it just adds a little bit more parity to the game. It's not a guaranteed point after. Not that these PATs are currently guaranteed, because kickers will still find a way to hook them to the left. And then 50-yard field goals are now worth 4 points. Because say you need 4 points. Say it's like 24-20. You don't have much time on the clock. If you have a kicker that can boot a 52-yard field goal, that makes your life a lot easier. Whereas a team that may not be able to kick a 35-yard field goal puts a little bit more emphasis on, okay, we need to get a good kicker. It can actually be the difference between winning and losing.
Yeah, no.
What's that rule? I think, do you ever pay attention to Canadian football at all? Because I think there's a rule in Canadian football where even if you missed a field goal, but it like goes out of the back of the end zone, you still get a point. Like, I don't know. I may be wrong about that.
Yeah, it's called a rouge. Any kick that goes into the end zone is 1 point. So that's the thing. The thing is with the Canadian football, if people aren't familiar, and I'll try and remember that this is an audio medium also, that there's the end zone, but the field goal posts are like near the front, and then there's like 20 yards of end zone and like a round end zone, like circular end zone, in the back. So any kick that goes out there, like, okay, we'll give you guys a point. But that's why it's fun, because you have players return kicks, like routinely they're returning kicks from like missed field goals from like 20 yards deep, just to like not give up, not to concede the 1 point. Or you'll have teams where it's like tied at the end of the game. There was one where it's tied at the end of the game, missed the kick, but then the other team has to kick it out to avoid, which is legal, to kick it out to avoid giving up the 1 point. The other team grabs the ball, they kick it back in, and then the other team tried to kick it out, but then they got fumbled, and then the original field goal kicking team recovered it for a touchdown. But yeah, that's fun. But that's kind of hard to do in college because of like the way the end zones are set up. Like there's not that much end zone, and it'll basically encourage, like Alabama would have been like, oh, we're fine. We have bad kickers. It doesn't matter. They can at least get it out the back of the end zone. But I don't know if we just change the field and make the end zones really big in the back, just drastic changes like that. But yeah, that's a fun rule in Canada.
I just thought of another rule. Sorry, I'm adding another rule. Kind of a fun one, but also one that is kind of serious. Can we stop fining schools for having their stadiums or their fields rushed? I understand there's some sort of a safety risk, but realistically, who gets that hurt? Like, Minnesota has decently large walls, but you also, like, it's kind of a courtesy thing. You don't jump until like there's room. Like, no one just jumps on top of each other. We don't have a dog pile at the back of the end zone. We know when to jump. We know when it's safe. We're not dumb. So stop fining schools $250,000 because their students had the night of their lives that night, and you just beat your rival for the first time in 18 years at home.
Reminded. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
No, I agree with you 100%. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, we got to start realizing that these are college kids. Like, they're kids. I mean, to be honest, they are kids. We're all, when we're 18, 19 years old, 20 years old, you're kids. Like, come on. Yeah, you're technically an adult, but you're a kid. Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So I'll Andrew brought up who's really in danger, and like my mind just flashed back to NC State was playing. It was either Duke or North Carolina. I'm trying to remember the color, the shade of blue, but okay, it doesn't really matter. Whoever NC State was playing, they were top 3, I think. This was in basketball. game's over, NC State wins, everyone rushes the court. One of the first people onto the court was a guy pushing another person in a wheelchair. Unfortunately, the person in the wheelchair fell out and it was like right at center court, and then everyone just massed, and like one of the NC State players had to help the person in. So that just like I'm not against like not I'm with you, Andrew. Like, don't find the people. That image just flashed into my mind. Like, oh, like who could be in danger? That person. But that barely happens. I've watched so much college, any sports where people rush the court, the field. That rarely happens. And then also we wouldn't get the image of the women at the kick six, stuck in the hedges trying to get through, and like the lady trying to help her friends. Like we wouldn't get that, and like that's fun. Let people rush. And also, I don't think those women were college age, but who cares? Let people rush the field.
Yeah,
it's
really,
awesome.
Yeah. Who cares?
Let us have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let us have fun. It's college and it's football. It's a game. It's at the end of the day, it's a game. Who cares?
I can get tried as an adult, but treat me so I can treat myself like a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One thing that what Josh, you said that I kind of started thinking about as we've been going on is you mentioned like shortening the games. Like, no disrespect to college bands. College bands make college football better. That's what separates it from the NFL, the atmosphere of the band. But can we please not have 20-30 minute halftimes anymore? I understand, you want to give the band their due and you want to have them, have them play at halftime, but we don't need a 15-minute band session in the middle of a football game, in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry, but 5 minutes, 10 minutes, fine, but 30-minute halftimes are just they're too long.
Yeah, I will also say, as someone who went to every home game this year, you don't hear the band at halftime. It's like you're in a stadium of, depending on what college you go to, mine's like 55 to 60,000. You don't hear the band. And they're doing like really cool stuff. They were doing different formations, different theme songs, which that was weird. But you know what? Some people might find it cool. We don't hear you. Like, I hear you when you're in the student section playing the rouser or when you're doing stuff during the game, but we don't hear you on the field because we're in a stadium packed with 60,000 people that are constantly talking during halftime. It makes
do it pregame. That was my idea. Do it on pregame. It's the same amount of people there anyway. You're like, oh, we don't want to do it pregame because people don't show up until like right before kickoff. Well, at halftime, people leave to go to the bathrooms and get concessions anyway. So do it pregame. That's the best. Hype up the crowd before the game starts, and then let the football be football, and don't even intertwine the two in the middle of it.
All right, I'll say this. Okay, I got a crazy idea. 10-minute block, because like you have to let the teams come out and like warm up again after going in and whatever. 10-15-minute block. Whatever team is winning at halftime, that's the band that could come out. So if your team stinks, I'm sorry. Like, if you're New Mexico State and you're like going to Alabama to play that paycheck game, I'm sorry, your band is not coming out into the field. Alabama's band is going to be out there, and that's it.
They have them do a joint show.
Oh yeah, no, that's actually a lot nicer than mine. Let them do a joint show. That's fun, because I've seen colleges do that. Like, I can't remember, there was one college, like there was some tragedy or something, but like they joined together, and like that was cool.
Yeah, that's cool. My worry is what happens when Michigan is beating Ohio State at halftime at the Horseshoe.
That's amazing. That's okay for us. That's content.
Oh,
for
it's
that's
beautiful
amazing.
content.
Exactly. Like that's what we want to see. Okay. We just made college football better. Like, the best part about it is the passion, right? Talked about the celebrating, right? How about having the band out there and they're under duress of people hucking things onto the field as they're trying to play, I don't know, the dan 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 song that I keep hearing in the background of random games. Like, that's what we want to see.
Oh, like NCAA like 11. I don't know. Did they use the same song for every NCAA? Like, for NCAA 11, they used one. Like, it wasn't based off your favorite team, because one of the NCAAs had Minnesota's. It was like NCAA 10 or something.
Yeah, there's like generic ones. Because I played it where like sometimes I'd like just mess with it. I'm like, I'm scoring like 100,000 points. I don't care. I'm just trying to have fun. And then you'd hear like, oh, this is the same song. This is the same song. This is the same song.
Yeah.
They don't have enough, like, they didn't program enough songs. It's just the same thing over and over again. So
But the little ones did have the fight songs on there too, though. I think. Yeah, the little ones did at least. But yeah, no disrespect to the band. Like we love our band people. I don't want to get canceled for saying, I don't want the band on the field. But let's just NFL halftimes are the perfect length, because with NFL halftimes, it's halftime. You can get up, you can go get a drink, you can go, get some food, heat something up in the microwave or whatever the case, go to the bathroom. And by the time you're back, boom, it's the third quarter already. Like I've literally legitimately gone at halftime I was watching a Georgia play. I left my house to go pick up food, and I came back. I ate my food, and it was still not the third quarter yet. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm sorry. Shout out to the band, but y'all gotta hurry it up. Like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. One more. I'm just gonna keep adding stuff, I guess. Don't have gates open 90 minutes before kickoff at stadiums. It's especially later in the season. It is death. I'm not trying to stay outside for 6-7 hours in the 30-degree weather. Like, yes, I'm going to do it. I'd rather not, but I'm still gonna. So just save me the pain. I was outside for like 10, 11 hours when we played Wisconsin in like 30-degree weather. I am shocked I didn't have frostbite. And it was also windy. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point. I never thought about that, but yeah, because you want to get there early, because then if you don't get there early, then it's going to take forever to get in anyway.
And you get awful seats. Like I got to the gate hour and a half to 2 hours early every game just so I could get front row. So yeah. And they also don't do anything on the field for the first like 60 minutes of the 90-minute wait. It's like they just play songs. And when everyone's just like taking pictures, that's when everyone does their photo ops at college football games, which is another thing I don't understand. But you know what? That's a completely different tangent that I'm going to try and avoid today.
We're just going to start, crapping on everything. All your grievances, just air them out now. Do it now or forever hold your peace, because this is the college football therapy session. What do you have against college football right now? I mean, that's a lot of good points, and I think it comes to show like how passionate we are about college football, that we're finding these things to make it better, because you always want to make things better. And it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect, but we love college football so much that we just want to have quality on the field, no matter what it is, whether it's officiating, whether it's rules, whether it's the bands on the field, whether it's, storming we just want good quality content and good quality 4 hours that we get, to watch our college football. So with that said, that's all I got. Josh, Andrew, do you guys have anything to say?
We love the sport. We love the sport. There's things that can make it better. We just want it to be as good as possible. And we want it so that we can make as much content out of it as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just shout out and say, with the draft coming up, guys have been turning out a bunch of draft stuff. And man, I'm so heartbroken, because I usually love digging into the draft stuff. But I wasn't able to this year. So I can't wait to join the guys who did. Go read all the articles that they did. There's a major draft stuff coming up, especially with the draft. Man, it's already next week. Goodness gracious.
Yeah.
You can go and you can watch, as Andrew just released his mock draft 5.0. Yeah, 5.0 just released, just in time for Deebo Samuel to get traded to the Chiefs.
No, they're not pursuing him. They're not pursuing him.
That's true. It's an inside joke that every time Andrew's about to put out a mock draft, that things like his last one, it took literally like a week and a half, right? Or something like that.
Yep.
Until it finally got released.
Devontae got traded. Russ got traded. Reek got traded. The Baker news, Watson got traded. Then there was Matt Ryan got traded. Then there was something else. I think it was like.
Exactly. Too much stuff has happened. It's all Andrew's fault.
Za'Darius signing. That was another one that was kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, it's Andrew's fault, or whatever. If you think it's good and you like crazy NFL offseason, that's what you like. So yeah, just watch all the draft stuff, and then even after the draft, we're gonna have a bunch of stuff ready for y'all. So keep watching, keep listening, keep sharing all that stuff.
Yeah,
the draft is a year-long thing.
It is a year-long thing. Football is a year-long thing, honestly. So yeah, the draft's coming up next Thursday, live from Las Vegas. So make sure you tune into that. All of our content, we're putting out amazing content by our guys leading up to the draft and even after, like Josh said. So We're gonna start getting. I know this today was kind of it was kind of a fun episode. There's really not a lot to talk about right now, but we're starting to get the ball rolling. Once the draft is over, man, it's full sail through the summertime, and next thing you know, it's fall camp. So we're almost there. It seems like it's forever, but it's going to go by faster than we all think, and for a good reason. So, well, thank you guys so much for listening. Please give us a shout out. Listen to us, watch our YouTube videos. There's a lot of great content being put out by a lot of our amazing, talented people in the transfer portal. So just keep supporting us. We thank everybody's support, and we're going to continue grinding this out. But thank you guys so much, and have a great rest of your day. Happy 420, baby. Go do what you got to do.
Responsibly.